What's up everyone? Today in this video I'm going to be reviewing your resume and giving you my live honest feedback as I go through the resume. And when you apply, you have a better shot of getting a job. If you want your resume to be reviewed by me, make sure to send it over to me on this email address, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I will make sure I feature it in a future video. So here we go. Alright, so I'm looking at a resume now. I have removed the name just for privacy reasons. So this is what we're working with. There's no context as to which position student is applying. So let's just have a quick look. So just based on the first paragraph here, computing science students with a proven communication, blah, blah, blah. Again, no one really reads all that. I'm just going to read the first few words, and if it makes sense to me, it makes sense to me. So computer science student, that's what I'm getting. You're going to be looking for something in computer science because that's the first thing you've outlined for me on your resume. So I'm just going to assume that this resume is meant for a computer science role. Now, when I look at your experience here, it starts from 2017 to 2018 IELTS trainer. Well, if you were looking for more of an English-oriented role or something more along the lines of teaching, this would make sense. I would look at the job description and see, okay, the first thing this person has done is all this teaching experience, and if I was hiring for an IELTS trainer or an English trainer, this would make sense. But computer science student, and then the first bit of experience you have is as an English teacher or something, and I'm not seeing what the relevance of that is. To right there, I'm kind of confused as to what kind of job you're even looking for, okay? Now we proceed further, and the next thing you have is a package handler, which is, again, it's completely different. And now you have three different things going on. Communicating effectively and solving problems by offering alternatives, okay, unloading, switching roles, member, or whatever. So one thing to keep in mind at this point is that if I were a recruiter, I'd be looking for certain things on this resume. If I'm hiring for a computer science related role, I'd be looking for computer science related content on this. If I'm hiring for someone who's a packager, I'm going to be looking for packaging related content. So if you can see on this resume, in the first page, we have three different things. We've got computer science, we've got English teaching, and we've got package handling. Now, yes, if that's the kind of experience you have and you want to mention it, I understand that, but you also have to understand when I'm reading this resume, I want to see what's relevant to me. If I'm seeing a bunch of irrelevant information that has nothing to do with the job you applied for, I'm just going to think it's not a good fit, and I'm going to move on to the next one. And then presently you're working at Tim Hortons, and again, there's just one line, training for now, learning new responsibilities. Doesn't really give me a lot to work with. And again, I think in terms of your experience, if I were to just look at your work experience and try to guess what kind of job you'd be applying for, I'd have a difficult time. Just having a look at it, I would say you take the first job that'll come your way, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's true, because when we're students, we're not really picky with the kind of jobs we want. We pick the first thing we have, and you know what? This is just the kind of experience you have, and you put it on there, I get it. But some context really helps. You have to find relevant information that helps you get the kind of job you want, okay? Here, I'm just going to assume you're applying for a computer science job because that just makes the most sense to me. Otherwise, you would not have mentioned it right at the top. But if we're looking at this from a perspective where you just want a part-time job, we'll go into some different details about that later as well. So let's continue going on here. Education, enrolled in the Bachelor of Computer Science. This is great. If you were looking for a computer science program, you mentioned that. You mentioned all the stuff that you did here that was related to computer science, and this is actually pretty good. Prepared a portfolio, developed I'm not too sure about all these terminologies here, but it tells me that you've dabbled in computer science, you know enough about it. So if you're looking for an entry-level role, this will be something to show the recruiter that I've done things even though I don't have experience. For now, just ignore all these formatting issues. I think this happens when you convert PDF to Word, so I wouldn't worry about that too much. This is kind of where we run into tricky waters here, okay? Effective participation and communication skills shown as a speaker in class presentation and model nations. This is fine. I think it's okay, but this first sentence here is just, I've heard it and read it so many times. Effective participation, effective communication skills. I would give, this is a good example, but if you can back that up with numbers and how you present it in that model nations, did you win an award for that, or did you train your team members for that? Did you have any other instances where you were communicating something more solid? This seems like you're only giving me taking the role of speaker in a class presentation. So this shows me that your effective participation and communication skills comes from one class presentation in Model United Nations. So you really want to give me a more diverse pool of consistent skills that you've demonstrated before, okay? Proficient skills in Microsoft Office, developed an inventory system Excel application. This is good. Yeah, you showed that you've used Microsoft Office before and you gave an example. Perhaps you can give other examples as well. Even if you've written papers in university, that's a good example. Put that on there as well. The more numbers, the more quantifiable evidence that you can give me of your expertise, the more it will benefit you. And in languages, English, Hindi, Punjabi, basic understanding of Japanese. As for some cases, this can actually be beneficial. I would say, yeah, it's fine. You can mention it. It's not. It shouldn't be a priority, and I think that's right at the bottom. That's why it's right at the bottom of your resume. And that's completely okay. But generally, I think when we're looking at the skill set, we could definitely improve a lot of things here. And mainly, what I mean is improve relevant skills. So this would again go back to the job you're applying for, and that's why it's so important to make a resume once you know which job you're applying for. You can't just have one resume with all of the experience you have and then apply to every single job, because as you can see, you'll have all this jumbled up experience. You'll have experience as a trainer, as a package handler, as a computer science student. I don't know what you're good at. I don't know what you want. I don't know where your passion lies. And if I look at your resume and I see a bunch of different experience in different places, I don't really know what you want. So you have to specify that for me. You have to be extremely specific when you're presenting your case. And then you can see some formatting issues here. You got all this space here, and then you got references at the end. Now with references, when it comes to references, just don't mention it on your resume. If an employer wants your references, they'll just ask you at a later stage when they're conducting your references. They don't need it on your resume. No one's gonna go to your resume, instantly pick up the phone and call up all your references to make sure you're not lying on your resume and then calling you up. That's just not going to happen. Remove your references right out of it, okay? So your resume, if you summarize it, it should come up to a maximum of 2 pages. There's no reason for there to be 3 pages. And I think this is probably a formatting issue going on. So condense it down if you can. What I do like about your resume is just the formatting. It tells me when you started. What I do like about your resume is the formatting of it. I do like how everything is listed down pretty properly, the dates, where you were working, what your position was. Personally, and this completely depends on the recruiter, I do like it in a reverse chronological order, meaning I want to know what you're doing now, and then I go back into your previous experience. Some recruiters like it the other way. They like you leading up to what you're doing now, so I can see a history of it. The only reason I suggest putting it up front, going in reverse chronological order, is because if you're a student, everyone wants to know if you're still enrolled, if you're working somewhere else, if you have something else taking up your time, what's keeping you busy. So I would actually reverse that and start with what you're doing now. Okay, here's what I'm gonna do for you. I'm gonna make some suggestions based on the kind of job I think you're looking for, because based on your resume, I can't really tell. I'm gonna give you suggestions based on applying for a computer science role, and give you suggestions on applying for just a part-time job, if that's what you're looking for. Now, if you're applying for a computer science job, I would even go as far as completely removing this, because if you're applying for a computer science job, your objective, just by the fact that you're applying, is to get that position. You don't need to restate it. I think it's a waste of space. What you'd rather do is, instead of having all of this here, I would delete all of this and replace it with something called highlights or summary of qualifications, okay? Now suppose that the things that this job description is looking for is experienced in Microsoft Excel, experienced in JavaScript, whatever, okay? Suppose you've got all these things. This is listed in the job description. What you are going to do is you are going to find reasons how you fill every single one of these requirements, and the first thing you'll do on your resume is type that out under summary of qualifications. So, right, reason number 1, experienced with Excel. I'm not sure what's going on with the formatting here, but and then reason number 2, JavaScript experience doing XYZ. Always give examples of how you've had that experience. So the reason for doing that, the moment the employer will open your resume, the first thing they see is exactly what they're looking for in a candidate. They're looking for JavaScript, they're looking for HTML, whatever computer terminology is. And if that's the first 5 things you have on your resume and they can see that, they will completely scan out your resume. They'll be interested and they'll say, this candidate has exactly what we're looking for. Within that snapshot, they will start going to the rest of your resume and hopefully give you a call. That's what I would do. I would find things, even if you don't have experience, find things even outside university, outside your course material. Maybe you were at home and you built your own computer. put that there. Anything that can show your enthusiasm, anything that can show your qualifications, put that in highlight of qualifications in point form. Now, usually I would recommend having the education section right at the end, but because looking at your work experience, you don't really have a lot of work experience doing anything computer related. So all of this is completely irrelevant when it comes to a computer science job, right? So what I would actually do is I would take your education and training and I would bring it up here right under highlights of qualifications, so that at least when the employer is opening up your resume, the first thing they see is the 5 things or 6 things that make you the perfect fit for their role, and right underneath that they will see your education and training, which says Bachelor of Computer Science. So again, if I'm someone who's hiring and I see 5 points exactly pertaining to what I'm looking for, and then I'm seeing computer science, half of your first page is already making a lot of sense to me. It looks like the perfect fit. I'll continue reading on. So from that point, you can even start eliminating all these things. You don't need all of this job description on there. You can even have 1 or 2 just to show what you're doing now. And the rest of it that's irrelevant, leave it out. You could even summarize this whole resume on 1 page. In fact, we absolutely can. If you say deleted 2 of these package handler roles that have nothing to do with it, you can delete these. You can use the IELTS training as a testament to your communication skills. Like, I have trained students in the past to speak English, to do this test. I'm really good at communication. I'm really good at talking to people and training them through something. So if you're applying for a computer science job that involves you maybe giving someone some service during help desk, this will be great for that. So outline how this makes you a really good communicator, and that's going to be a very good selling point. And then if you have this in your resume, you could just have this section instead of all of this package handling blah blah blah. You could just delete all of this. Let's see here, and then you can just bring up your skills section. So honestly, I would personally find a way to fit all of this in 1 page. You honestly can. If you're a student, you don't have the amount of experience needed to justify a 2-pager, because you probably have 1 or 2 jobs and you have some qualifications, you have some education, and you have some skill sets. Find a way to make that as succinct as possible onto 1 page and you're good to go. Now, say you're applying for a part-time job, okay? You're not applying for a full-time gig. Honestly, your resume right now is fine. It'll work because you have experience doing a lot of different things. You've experienced being a package handler. You have experience working at Tim Hortons. So that's what people want to see. You have local experience, and you've written down Canada here, Kamloops here. People want to see that you've done the role in a past role, so that if they hire you, you'll be more than likely to do the duties that you have to do. So I think this was fine. Given the kinds of resumes I've seen with most students, I think, honestly, I think your resume looks pretty good. I would again flip the order. I'd have them, if an employer is considering your resume, they want to see what you're doing now. If you're working a full-time job, or if you have like 3 other jobs you're doing now, they don't want to hire you because they know you're not going to put in too many hours. So reverse the order. The reverse chronological will work better for you. And then the rest of it, education, skill set is fine. The same thing applies to a part-time position as well in terms of highlights and summary of qualifications. Find something on the job description that they want, like communication, teamwork, whatever. And for each one of those, give an example of how you fulfill that. Think of the hobbies you have, think of the extracurricular activities you have, think of the education, and even things that you've done outside school. And that way, when they open your resume and they see all the things they're looking for and you have them, you'll have a much better shot of landing a job. So essentially, if you're looking for a part-time job, your resume is almost there. If you're looking for something more computer science oriented, you definitely have a lot of work ahead of you. My biggest advice would be, pick what job you want and then make your resume. Don't just make one resume and shoot it everywhere. Be extremely specific. So if you give your resume to someone and they don't know anything about your industry, they have one look at your resume and they can say, you know what? I think you're applying for something computer science. I can tell based on your resume, you'd be a good fit for computer science. Make it as simple as possible. So again, if you got some value out of this video, make sure to like the video. I'll make plenty more. And if you want your resume to be featured, make sure to send me an email, subscribe to the channel, check out some of these other videos, and I will see you in the next one.